on Two Wheels this week. Wayne talks more about helmets. Jeff meets a biking solicitor. And there's more nonsense from Tommy Topbox. But first, it's over to Sheffield. If you want to do something different on your bike, where can you go? Well, you could try this. Of course, it's a track day, yes, we all know about track days. Or you might even want to try this. That's straight lining or sprinting, something that you can just turn up and have a go at. But if you haven't got your own bike, or you don't want to use your own machine, where can you go? Well, you can go to an off-road school, you can go to a race day, or you can even try a bit of this. So Louise, Speedway schools, not common, not many of them about. How long have you been at this in Sheffield?
We've been at this about 5 years or so, and we've had a lot of people through here. We need to captain young to race Speedway to become professionals.
Right. So what sort of people? I've never done Speedway, and I'm nervous. I'm a bit, you know, a lot of trepidation, but are they all complete novices like me?
No, we get varying people. I mean, we do have a lot of novices because, as you say, it's very hard to find somewhere to ride Speedway, so we have people, we advertise and they watch it on the terraces, then they decide they want to go. So we take anybody, young lads, old men, anybody that fancies, you know, making the heartbeat a bit faster.
Right, well, I'm sure that's going to happen. What we're going to be using, we're not going to be using the full McCoy, fully powerful jobs, are we?
We're going to work our way up to that slowly because obviously there's no brakes on the 500s and they're extremely fast. They do 0 to 60 in 2.5 seconds, so I won't want to let you loose straight away on one of them. Right. So we're going to start off on a Honda 125. Which is basically the same bike with a little milder engine, obviously. Right. And then when you've had a few goes and got the technique, we'll work onto the 500 and see how you handle that.
Got the technique, I like your confidence. I've not got a lot of confidence. That looks pretty hard, that track. It's going to hurt, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, if you come off at any speed, it's just like falling off on tarmac. But the object is not to hurt you, it's to teach you how to do it. And that's what we aim to do, to teach you how to get the basics of Speedway.
Right, okay, let's get on with it. If you want an example of what can be achieved in a very short time here, don't look at me because I'm flipping hopeless, but Lee here, how long have you been at this, Lee?
6 months.
6 months, and the way you were going around that track there like a veteran, did it just come natural to you or what?
Well, yeah, really, mainly because I've been watching it all my life.
Right, and have you, before you started doing this, had you any other bike experience? Have you rode anything else?
No, not really. I did a bit of grass last year, but nothing but that, really.
So you just fancied having a crack 6 months ago?
Yeah.
And here you are now, sideways round the corners and halfway down the straights. So how old are you now, Lee?
16.
16, so that means you can compete now, can't you?
Yeah.
And how are you doing?
I've done 2 matches for Sheffield.
Right.
And plan to do more when the time's.
So you, any time now, you could be snapped up by a big time agent and signed up for a club, could you?
Yeah, I suppose so.
Are they sniffing? Is it like football? Do they come sniffing round and trying to sign you up and offer you loads of deals?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, good luck to you, mate. You're a great example of what can be achieved here in a very short time if you're multi-talented and a born superstar like Lee. Okay, Louis, that's the most fun I've ever had on a CG125. They're supposed to be training bikes, them, aren't they?
Well, that's what they start on, and you have to say they're only CG125s, but they do give you a feel for the real thing.
Brilliant. Well, I'm knackered already, not done much, but how was it out there?
Well, you coming along, I can tell you've rode motorbikes before, so you have the basics, but there's a couple of things you've got to brush up on, and he's making full use of the steel shoe. You're not quite putting enough weight on that. Yeah. You know, and support yourself in the corner.
I'm aching here. I've got an ache in my left groin. I think I'm actually holding my foot off the floor. Really.
Right. Well, the steel shoe is so you can actually put some weight on it and it will skim across. And also on this side of the bike, there's a little footrest where perhaps if you put your leg on that, it would just relieve it a little bit. But it's awkward to find, but
it is.
You know, you'll find it if you try.
All this back end coming out business, I mean, it feels like it's probably moving that much. It feels to me like it's moving that much, but I mean, what's the technique with that?
Well, you are getting it moving, and perhaps because you're such, you know, quite a large size for the 125s, it's just a little underpowered for you, and that's why I think she'd have gone the 500.
So you've not lost it, Louis, I can see there, still doing it, eh?
Yeah, I haven't, you know, I've been at it a long time, 20 years. It just gets harder as I get older, that's all.
So, 20 years a professional?
Yeah, I started when I was 10 years old, and when I was 16 I turned professional, and I rode till I was 36, so yeah, I did 20.
And what stopped you?
I had an injury where, you know, towards the end of my career, like most Speedway riders, and that was enough, you know, I'd seen enough racing.
But you're still very heavily involved here, in particular at Sheffield, with the Tigers. You promote, and it's your dream to bring the kids through, isn't it?
That's right. Well, I've moved on to management now, and I'm involved in the promoting, and also I run this training school, because to be a professional Speedway rider, I like to catch them young, say 10 years old or 12 years old, and you need the enthusiasm, and I've still got that, and I want to supply our team with young riders, young English riders for the future.
Excellent. Well, there's some superstars here today, superstars of the future. Won't be long before we see them over here at the big track, is that right?
No, the young lads learn very fast, and that's the secret. To catch them young, they learn very quickly, and as soon as they're 16, we put them into, you know, the main event, and we sort of, their enthusiasm will bring them through, and by 18, you know, they've got a team spot and they're looking for a career in it.
Look at this. Red as a beetroot. Well, they are Speedway. Fantastic. You can come here to Sheffield, and probably the same at all the other places throughout the country, although there's only 4 or 5. It'll cost you. You turn up here on your road bike on a Saturday morning, you can play on a Speedway bike and see what it's really like to ride for 25 quid. It's dead cheap, isn't it? You don't need any fancy gear. Pair of road leathers like I've got, road boots, a road helmet would do. Take the visor off, put some goggles on, and you're away. Absolutely brilliant way to spend the day. And if you decide you like it, you might even want to buy a Speedway bike, and that'll only cost you something about 400 quid. You can get a decent Speedway bike. It's absolutely brilliant, but totally knackering. So why don't you just do it?
Oh, hello there. I was just spring cleaning my bike. Honestly, I was, yeah. Now look, there's an old adage amongst the biking fraternity that says, the bigger one's bike, the smaller one's todger. Now I've conducted a survey amongst the women members of the biking fraternity, and this might be of some interest to you ladies out there, or even some of you men who aren't quite so sure, that if you just want to bear in mind that because he's got a 1300cc engine, long forks, high bars, doesn't mean he's got a big chopper. So if you'll just excuse me, I'm going out for a ride on my bike.
Now here's a bike that at first sight could look as though it's covered in carbon fibre, but in fact this isn't carbon fibre, is it? What is it?
This is carbon Kevlar. It's a weave of carbon, which is the black, and yellow Kevlar.
And what's the big difference then? What's the advantage? I haven't seen it before. Is it brand new?
It's not brand new. It's been around for a long time. It's not always seen. Quite often it's sprayed over on race bikes and etc. The Kevlar is a much stronger, tougher material than carbon. Carbon is very light and strong, but Kevlar is a grade above that. So a combination of the two, you get great strength with lightness.
Yeah, so the lightness, I guess there's no real difference between the two in lightness. It's the strength thing, is it?
No, for comparable strength, you would need more carbon fibre than carbon Kevlar.
Oh, would you?
Yes.
Yeah, right. And so are there any problems with it? I mean, why haven't people been using it more?
It's difficult to get the right look. Some of these parts, these have not been designed for display, they've just been designed as a product. Normally it would be sprayed and you wouldn't see the finish. I wanted to create an impression and show something a bit different, so we've got the finish like this. But because of the two different strengths of material, it's difficult to get a very clean, sharp finish to any product.
All right, so you've got to watch that. Even hand finishing, you get a bit of a problem.
Even hand finishing, you can't get it exactly smooth.
Right, but that can add to this sort of magic of a bit trick then, a bit special.
It's going to be a bit different, yes.
Yeah, that's good. And what about price-wise? Is that comparable, or is this more expensive, or what?
Price-wise, it varies immensely, and where carbon and carbon Kevlar is concerned, you get what you pay for. It's expensive, but I would like to think that mine is competitive as well.
Yeah. And if you really want to be different, I mean, you've got to ride around with it looking like this.
Absolutely right.
Yeah.
I would recommend this to everyone with a VTR or any other bike that we do for.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.
Now, we don't see many solicitors at bike shows, so what's a solicitor doing at a bike show?
Well, we're specialist solicitors specialising in accident compensation, and I suppose, Jeff, wherever you've got people and vehicles, inevitably, unfortunately, there are going to be accidents. And we provide a specialist service to recover compensation for accident victims.
So you don't fall into this horrible category, this ambulance chasing thing. Someone's got to phone you, have they?
That's right.
Yeah.
We have a free phone number. If we're telephoned, we'll give immediate advice over the telephone.
Right, and if someone on this accident compensation, you must have to interrogate them. They can't just say, this guy knocked me off my bike, but you can quickly sort of sum up as to whether it's worth pursuing?
Yes, in 99% I would say of accidents, they're relatively straightforward, such that with the experience that we have, within a few minutes we can tell them whether they've got a realistic prospect of success.
And have you seen a growth in this business? I mean, is business booming?
Well, unfortunately, I have to confess that it is, but I don't think the accidents are increasing. I think that people's awareness of the right to compensation is increasing.
Yeah, which has got to be a good thing.
That's right. I think road safety has generally increased, and people are, I think, much more safety conscious these days. But equally, they've become aware that if they do, unfortunately, have an accident, they're entitled to compensation in most cases.
Okay. Well, look, tell me, before we go, I'll have to ask you what you're doing on this actual Harley. It's got a bit of a story on it.
It has got a bit of a story, yes. This was the bike that Eric rode, who was Lovejoy's understudy in the Lovejoy series.
All right. So you're getting into antiques as well now?
Just a bit, yes. But it is in working order, and it is used regularly by the partnership.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
In the news this week, bikers in London are twice as likely to cause an accident than bikers anywhere else in Britain. That's according to a survey by a leading motorcycle insurance specialist. The number of London-based bikers involved in a fault accident was more than twice that of the next worst areas, the South East and the South West. The best area was shown to be the East of England, Bedfordshire, Cambridgeshire, Lincoln, Norfolk and Suffolk, with only 1 in 1,000 involved in a fault accident in the last 6 months, and only 2 in 1,000 making a theft claim. And coming up in part 2, Wayne talks more about helmets and more bikers having their say in Metalhead.
So buying a helmet, not very important. I mean, it's as easy as buying a packet of fish fingers at the supermarket, isn't it? Not. Obviously not. Your head is a very valuable thing. In fact, you would like, if you had all the money in the world, to spend an awful lot of money on a helmet. But you'll be very curious to know what you get for your money. So we've chosen 3 different helmets at 3 different prices. One at $79.95. That's this Nolan. And then we've got another one over here, that's the Shark, at $179.95. And then finally, we've got this RI over here, which is $279.95. So you'll be curious to know what the differences are. Well, there's quite a lot of difference, because there's various different features about each helmet. Now, I'll tell you about those in a minute, but only after I've had my coffee break. I suppose you want to interrupt me now. I mean, I've had my coffee break. I'm just having a tea break, you know. But as soon as it's you, I will let you interrupt me while I talk about these helmets. So, $79.95, but what do you get for your 80 quid? Well, we start with this baby. What do you get? Well, a good sealing visor and quite a good action, a good click action. It's even got on it a locking device at the front. So if you do ride a reasonably fast superbike, you've no fear of the visor wanting to lift up when the wind catches it. You've got a venting system on the front which is really easy to use with your gloves on, and that's quite important as well, and that directs the airflow through the front and up onto the visor here and keeps it demisted. Obviously only when you're moving though, because there's no fan or anything like that. And that's the thing to bear in mind. A lot of people expect a visor to be demisted when you're stood stationary at a set of traffic lights or whatever. Well, it doesn't work like that. Okay, there's eyebrow vents on here which simply send the air through the top and cool your head down. In the same respect, so does this. And again, as I said, when you're using it with your gloves on or when your fingers are cold, which is important, that's what happens when you're riding motorcycles, certainly with this British weather, they're easy to use. Simple as that. Visor removal. Now, each manufacturer wants to brag about how easy the visor is to take off. Well, this particular one is quite easy. You just pull the side pod off there and you turn this little key and off she comes, okay, and put it back in the opposite way. That is quite important because if a visor is difficult to put on and off, you probably won't do it. If you don't do it, your visor gets dirty, scratched, marked, and it costs you a blinking fortune, because any visor for any helmet nowadays can cost you between 15 and 35 quid. So take that into consideration when you're buying. So we now move on to this model, which is the one at 179 quid. And this is a brand new model from Shark called the XRS Lynx Air. What the hell's a Lynx Air? Well, the Lynx is the style and the Air is the fact that it's got fancy venting on. Because they do this particular model at 129.95 in plain black or white, and they also do a Carr Fogarty replica at 179 quid. Right, what do you get for your money? Well, first of all, it's an advanced material, and it's constructed out of your carbon fibre Kevlar mixes in an actual way of manufacturing is unique to these guys, Shark, and it's the way they layer it, allowing it to be nice and light, and it is particularly light, but very, very strong. Okay, so that's the shell. You then get the nice features, because you do in fact get underneath here and inside you get a DuPont Coolmax liner, and the advantage with that is that it's a washable liner, and that helps obviously, because I mean, let's be fair, you wash your barn every day, don't you? But how often do you wash your helmet out? Not very often, I believe. And what will surprise you, it's actually made in Thailand. And the reason they make it in Thailand is because labour's cheap, so they can have a nice, good quality product at a lower price. And at 180 quid, it is actually good value for money. So right then, having had that, we now move into this baby, the expensive one. Not by any means the most expensive you can buy, but rather nice. RI are a world leader, and in fact they're on great demand to the point where very often they run out. So what do you get for your 279.95? Lightweight. It is light, and it is important that if you can afford to, buy a helmet that's as light as you can get away with, because it does make a difference. It's more comfortable on a long journey, and also does make a difference if you have a misfortune. You get less of that whiplash effect with a heavy helmet on your head. Obviously it's going to be generated more whiplash. The visor mechanism, it's got a lock on it at the side here. That's quite a good feature. I showed you that on the Nolan, but on this one, it's easy to use. It doesn't slide or anything, it just simply lifts up and locks down. And then when it's down, it can't ride up at the front, it can't lift up with the wind unless you do it from the side here, okay? The venting, simple on and off, and again, relatively well thought out so you can use it with your gloves. On the subject of the visor, this particular one seals really well around the seal and is adjustable behind these side pods. On visor removal, well, this is really sweet because it's designed, it's called Super Adsis, and it's a complicated way of saying it's fast and easy. Okay, what you do is you simply tug, and as you tug, sweetly, that comes off, and the same on the other side, as simple as that, okay? And it goes back in the same manner, all right? Slide it in there and slide it in on the other side, he says, nice and simply. And in actual fact, if you're good at this, you can actually do it on your head, and that's why the racers use them, so when they're pulling at the pits at the Isle of Man, they can rip it off and put another one. Pretty clever. Okay, then you've got the liner on the inside. Lovely and soft, very nice to touch, and great advantage is washable. Just like the Shark is, you can wash it. You wash it in situ. The disadvantage with a washable liner is it takes about 3 days to dry out. But if you know what you're doing, you just plan ahead and the job's a good one. There's not a lot more I can tell you about the RI. all I can do is generalise, and to generalise it's very simple. Fit is essential, so try lots of different models on, because although you might put a helmet on at the price you want to pay, the pattern you like, when you put it on your head you might think, oh that's alright, but you've got to compare it with other helmets. You just might find that by trying a different helmet on fits you that little bit better and more comfortable, still in your price category. So keep trying lots of different ones on. Mither that sales assistant to death, because your head's worth it. So that's 3 different helmets at 3 different prices. Well, there's the helmets and a few details about what goes on with the visor, the mechanisms and so on. But you may be curious to know what's it between that bit and that bit. The liner, polished styrene, fancy foam. But if you'd like to see a little bit more about that, I'll show you in another programme.
I don't like having the character prejudged just because I ride a motorbike. In this day and age you don't expect it, but unfortunately it's still going on. If people could be a little bit more tolerant of who you are, not just because you ride a motorbike, it would be a lot better.
One of the things that really pisses me off is black visors being illegal. If you can wear a pair of sunglasses sitting in the car at night and it's not actually an offence, why shouldn't you be able to wear a black visor on your crash helmet? And it's a safety feature as far as I'm concerned, especially in weather like this.
What pisses me off about policemen are, especially down at our local Sturley's Castle in Oxfordshire, is that they sit outside and they got like, the old policeman, and then they got the old coppers down the bottom of the road. Coppers record the old registration plates, the old bikes go off down the road, the old bikes get done. They said, what happens out on the road is our business, what happens inside that pub car park is yours. And then all of a sudden, 2 coppers turn up on 4 blades, and they're taking videos of the bikes, yeah, and the registration plates, yeah, and you know, it really pisses me off, yeah.
What pisses me off about motorcycling is the unfriendly places that you stop at, i.e. pubs, motorway services. People should be a lot more friendly to bikers. The government should allow motorcycles into bus lanes and also should contribute towards the insurance, because obviously we take up less space on the road and we're more user-friendly, environmentally friendly than car drivers.
I think one of the main problems with the government at the moment, they just haven't really been good enough to bikers. Like, they've got all these transport policies and they're not really, I mean, you still have to pay £60 for your tax disc, which I think is a bit high really. They ought to be doing a lot more for bikers, I think.
On Two Wheels next week, Wayne goes out for an afternoon's hill climbing in Yorkshire, and we ride Yamaha's muscle machine, the VMAX.